How to develop a research question. I have a 3-step process and a Notion template to share with you that can serve your research whether you're a PhD student, doing masters, or an undergraduate researcher like myself. I'm Mohamed Diab. I have 7 publications up to this point. Most of them got published this month. And instead of giving you the textbook answer of developing a research question, I will share my 3 crucial mistakes that actually sabotaged my productivity for a good 6 months. And it goes like this. First, term sticking. Second, competing for novelty. And lastly, reading. Let me explain. When I say term sticking, that is what I mean. I start with a medical condition, a medical term, whether it is as simple as bleeding in the skull or maybe water in the brain. And I'd be like, okay, so this is the term, this is the lecture on it. How can I go a step further and be novel? And what I do at this point is that I stick other words to that medical term, which is usually a buzzword. To give you a feeling what the buzzword is, a buzzword by definition is a trendy word used by the public, correctly or not, just to show that whoever said that word is intellectual, is more interesting and knows more, even if that guy or that woman is using it incorrectly. So for example, prompt engineering. So prompt engineering is this fancy word, but what it actually means is writing clearly. But if I said this is the Google course for prompt engineering, it would be interesting to know. But I said this is the Google course for writing clearly, you'll be skeptical. So what I do with that, I get this medical term and then I stuck all of this buzzword next to it. So intracranial hemorrhage and AI and neuroimaging and too many ands that ends up making my research just shallow. I'm not digging in one concept and getting to the core of it. I'm not extracting anything. I'm just trying to be novel. So what ends up happening is my research gets too broad and I find nothing. And this is actually the term sticking thing only worked once for me in my first poster presentation. What I did was I was studying medical physics at the time, especially MRI. And I got to this condition which is edema, brain, water in the brain. And I was like, okay, so let's get this word, PRESS, which is posterior reversible encephalopathy syndrome, and let's stick it to AI. I got nothing. So I was like, okay, let's stick it to thumb medication, azathioprine. I'm just doing it randomly. And I was like, okay, so there's something called drug-induced azathioprine, drug-induced PRESS. I made my first paper. I submitted to the conference. Cairo Neurology Conference is an international conference. And it got accepted as a poster presentation. The thing is, it got accepted as a poster presentation, but it never got published. Because fundamentally, the paper was inconclusive and fragile. Because me, as the principal investigator, I didn't really have an idea. I was just term sticking. So I was doing just like this guy. A shallow search. I'm not really digging to get a core of something. Unlike this guy we're gonna talk about in a minute. So, regardless of the fact that I got my first poster presentation in a 5-star hotel where I stayed for 2 nights, the Intercontinental, it is not really sustainable. And my reason for doing this term sticking was that I just wanted to get to the cutting edge of what is known. I just wanted to reach the frontier. Why? Because it's a competition. I was competing for novelty. Competing against who? Well, first I'm competing against the well-established teams in China or Japan doing systematic reviews for randomized clinical trials. That is, I mean, if the randomized clinical trial is just published Sunday, they have the systematic reviews registered as a protocol Sunday a week before. So the speed was just a huge advantage to them. So I couldn't really compete. I was just term sticking another buzzword to just get to the edge of something so I can do it first. So I can have the advantage. So I can be novel. Not only I was against the Japanese teams, I was also against the American established institutes. So in this marathon where you don't get to run, you get to sprint only, I was just losing. And I was doing something that gave me a worse outcome, which is other form of sticking extra buzzwords, getting this trendy topic so I can maybe get to something new. But the thing is, science was never about competition. Science was just about expansion. So you don't have to be novel to make a new way, but to be a scientist, you have to find a way where you can expand it, where you can take the extra step in the established way. So it's not a competition, it's a matter of expansion. But my mentality at that time, it was not like that. It was just like a competition. How can I get something novel? So how to get something novel? I mean, just find the buzz of new trendy word and stick it up on each other and get your research to be as shallow and broad as an entire city. It's a pitfall. I'm giving you the context. So, what is the third mistake that I did? After I just competing for novelty and I make this huge, maybe like 4 times as big as that query, was just stacking buzzwords. At the end of it, I would be like, okay, so I have this query now, and I have 3 opened paper, then just tabs, PubMed, and open new tab, open new tab, open new tab. And with all of these papers in front of me, I start reading. And this was the third mistake. Because we, as researchers, we don't read. Because read implies that we are just testing, not even testing, but passing through the informations superficially. As if you are a tourist. So you are reading as a tourist. But actually what we do as researchers is that we peruse. Because when we read a paper, it's not a matter of reading it. It's a matter of criticizing the method, finding inconsistency or a gap. But we're not there to read. We are there to peruse. And this is the concept from this guy that I really like, Anthony Bourdain, who had, his message, don't be a traveler, be a tourist. And if we're gonna reflect that on scientific research, we're gonna say, don't read, peruse. So with these 3 critical pitfalls that sabotaged my research, starting with competing for novelty, term sticking 3 or 4 terms that are just trendy and new, just to hopefully find something new and novel so I can compete with these 2 guys. And simply read superficially. With this row stacked up upon each other, I sabotaged my workflow and I cannot produce anything for a good 6 months. So, what you can do? You need to counter what I did. And this happens in 3 steps. First, you need to anchor yourself in a one medical topic. Just get one term and try to get it right. Because we as undergraduate, we didn't really encounter all the terms yet, all the conditions yet. I'm in my clinical rounds, but still. So what you need to do is that just get one term. For me, at this point, it's intracranial hemorrhage. have on my whiteboard here, but I cannot show you. And what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to build a frame, a mental frame, an established evergreen node that can serve me now as a researcher for my research and forever as a physician. And the second thing that you really need to integrate in your process and every time you're conducting a research is that science is not about competition. It is not, oh my god, my novel idea that I've just found after stacking tens of buzzwords is apparently published 5 years ago from a Chinese team. Well, it's not about competition. It's about expansion. It's about combining these efforts, okay? So if they did publish it 5 years, okay, read it. Would you read it? You peruse in order to find this point where they had a gap or inconsistency or a point of weakness in their method, and you can do it better now. So, 3 steps. Anchor yourself in one medical term. You're not competing but combining. And the third thing is that as we're not reading anymore, you would have to force yourself to summarize each paper you read. Not all of it, only 2 sections. The introduction, because it usually has the research gap, and the methods, because they simply tell you how they systematically wanted to fill that gap. So if you can summarize each of these 2, the introduction, because it has the gap addressed, and the methods, you are now perusing. You're not reading as a tourist, but you are a traveler, or let me say, a researcher. So, I highly encourage you to subscribe. I'm starting this channel because I'm building my research portfolio in public, and I'm sharing every bit of it, every value that I get along the way, and I'm dedicated for it. And the thing is, in the upcoming video, I will tell you how not to spend a day just reading one paper, because that actually also happened to me. Thank you.